Your 401k is a scam that replaced real pensions. You're doing everything right, contributing to your 401k. Employer matches 3%. You've got a target date fund. You're on track, the calculator says. Retire at 65 with $800,000. Sounds good, right? Except your dad retired at 60 with a pension that pays him $4,500 a month for life, guaranteed. Doesn't matter if the stock market crashes. Doesn't matter if he lives to 95. $4,500 a month, every month, until he dies. You've got $800,000 that has to last maybe 30 years. If the market crashes the year you retire, you're screwed. If you live longer than expected, you're screwed. If healthcare costs explode, you're screwed. Your dad has zero of those worries. Same company, different generation. He got a pension. You got a 401k. And you're starting to realize these are not the same thing. Today I'm going to show you exactly how corporations and the government conspired to eliminate pensions and replace them with 401k. How this was sold as giving workers freedom when it actually just shifted all the risk from employers to you. And why your generation faces retirement poverty while your parents' generation retired comfortably. This isn't about you being bad at saving. This is about the biggest wealth transfer from workers to corporations in American history. Let me tell you about Tom. He's 58. Works at the same manufacturing company for 35 years. Started in 1990. When he was hired, the company still offered pensions to new employees. He'd work 30 years, retire at 60, get 60% of his final salary for life. He calculated it. If he retired at his current salary of $75,000, he'd get $45,000 per year guaranteed. Inflation adjusted. For life, his wife would get survivor benefits if he died first. This was the deal, the promise. The reason he stayed 35 years instead of job hopping. In 2006, the company froze the pension. No new accruals. His pension is now based on his 2006 salary of $52,000 instead of his current $75,000. So instead of $45,000 per year, he'll get $31,000. That's a $14,000 per year cut to his retirement that he didn't see coming and couldn't prevent. The company said, "Don't worry, we're enhancing the 401k match." They increased the match from 3% to 5%. Sounds generous. Let's do the math. Tom makes $75,000. 5% match is $3,700 per year. Over 10 years, that's $37,000 in employer contributions. But he lost $14,000 per year in pension benefits. Over a 20-year retirement, that's $280,000 lost. They gave him $37,000 in 401k match and took $280,000 in pension. This is the scam. And it happened to tens of millions of workers. Here's what makes Tom's story devastating. He did everything right. He stayed loyal to one company because that's what pensions rewarded. He didn't job hop for higher pay because the pension was his security. Then they changed the rules after 35 years. He can't get that time back. He can't go back and choose a different career strategy. He's 58 with a gutted pension and a 401k that won't replace what he lost. His dad retired from the same company with a full pension. Worked 30 years, retired at 60, gets $4,800 a month for life. Tom worked 35 years and will get $31,000 a year, $2,600 a month. His dad retired in 1985. Tom retires in 2027, 42 years later, at the same company, for more years of work, and he'll get half the retirement income. This isn't about the economy changing. This is about a deliberate policy shift that destroyed retirement security for an entire generation. Your parents had pensions. You have 401k. This isn't random. This was a calculated transfer of risk and responsibility from employers to workers. And it was sold to you as empowerment. Take control of your retirement, freedom to manage your own investments, portability when you change jobs. All of these sound good, but they're lies covering the truth. Your employer no longer guarantees you anything. You bear all the risk. Market crashes, your problem. Living too long? Your problem. Inflation eating your savings? Your problem. Healthcare costs? Your problem. Your dad had none of these problems because his employer bore the risk. That's what a pension is. A guaranteed income transfer of risk from you to employer. The 401(k) does the opposite. It transfers all risk from employer to you, and somehow we've been convinced this is better. Let's compare the actual economics of pensions versus 401(k). It's because when you see the numbers, you'll understand this isn't about worker choice or market efficiency. This is about employers eliminating their obligations and keeping the money. We're going to look at two workers. Worker A retired in 1985 with a pension. Worker B retires in 2025 with a 401. Same company, same job, same 35 years of work. Let's see what they each get. Worker A retired 1985. Final salary $70,000. Inflation adjusted to today's dollars for comparison. Pension formula. Typical for that era. 2% times years of service times final salary. That's 2% times 35 times 70,000 equals 49,000 per year. For life, guaranteed, adjusted for inflation. If he lives 25 years in retirement, he receives $1.225 million total. If he lives 35 years, he receives $1.715 million. The company bears the risk of him living longer than expected. The company bears the risk of their pension investments underperforming. Worker A bears zero risk. The company funded this through pension contributions and investment returns on the pension fund. Typically, they contributed about 8 to 12% of payroll annually to the pension fund. On Worker A's career, averaging $50,000 salary over 35 years, that's about $4,000 to $6,000 per year in contributions. Total company contribution over 35 years, maybe $200,000 including investment returns. They pay out $1.2 million minimum. The math works because pension funds pooled risk across all workers and invested long-term. Some workers died early, subsidizing workers who lived long. The company managed the fund professionally. Worker B retires 2025 with 401(k). Final salary $70,000, same as Worker A adjusted. Company matched 5% of their contribution. Industry standard now. Worker B contributed 6%, company matched 5%, total 11% of salary annually. Sounds comparable to the 8 to 12% pension funding, right? But the outcomes are completely different. Let's track the 401(k) balance. Early career, making $40,000 average, 11% contribution is $4,400 per year. Mid-career, making $55,000 average, contribution is $6,005 per year. Late career, making $70,000, contribution is $7,700 per year. Over 35 years, let's assume 7% average annual return after fees. This is optimistic, but we'll use it. Total contributions over 35 years, about $200,000 from worker, $180,000 from employer, $380,000 total. With 7% growth, the balance at retirement is about $1.1 million. Sounds good, almost equivalent to Worker A's pension payout. But here are the differences that destroy Worker B. First, Worker B bears market risk. If the market crashes in 2024, the year before retirement, that $1.1 million could become $700,000. Worker A's pension doesn't change. It's guaranteed. Second, Worker B bears longevity risk. That $1.1 million has to last their entire retirement. Financial advisors say use 4% withdrawal rate. That's $44,000 per year. Sounds close to Worker A's $49,000. But if Worker B lives to 95 instead of 85, the money might run out. Worker A's pension never runs out. Third, Worker B bears inflation risk. That $44,000 per year isn't inflation adjusted unless they manage it perfectly. Worker A's pension is inflation adjusted. Fourth, Worker B bears sequence of returns risk. If the market crashes early in their retirement, it destroys the principal and they never recover. Worker A has no sequence risk. But here's the real scam. Let's say Worker B dies at 75. They've withdrawn 10 years of $44,000, total $440,000. They have about $600,000 left in the account. That goes to heirs. Sounds good, leaving money to kids. But compare to Worker A dies at 75, received 10 years of $49,000, total $490,000. Pension stops, nothing to heirs. Seems like 401(k) is better, right? But here's what you're missing. The company's obligation to Worker A was to pay $49,000 per year for life. Worker A dying early means the company saves money. They budgeted for 25 years of payments, $1.2 million. They only paid $490,000. They saved $710,000. Where does that money go? Back to the company. The company profits from Worker A dying early. With the 401(k), the company's obligation ended at retirement. They contributed $180,000 over 35 years, and they're done. Whether Worker B lives to 70 or 100, company pays the same. The company has capped their liability at $180,000. With the pension, their liability was unlimited, up to $1.7 million if Worker A lived to 100. The 401(k) saves the company potentially $1.5 million per worker. Multiply that by 10,000 workers, and you see why companies wanted to eliminate pensions. Now let's add fees. Worker B's 401(k) has expense ratios averaging 1% per year. Over 35 years, that 1% compounds. They lose about $200,000 to fees over their career. Worker A's pension fund also had fees, but the company absorbed them and they were lower due to institutional pricing. Worker B pays fees out of their retirement. These fees are invisible but devastating. And here's the final piece. Let's say both workers die at 85 with spouses who live to 90. Worker A's pension has survivor benefits. Spouse gets 60%. That's $29,000 per year for 5 years after Worker A dies. Total family receives $1.3 million over lifetime. Worker B's 401(k). If they withdrew carefully and had money left, spouse can continue withdrawals. But many workers draw down to zero before death. Pension provides spousal security. 401(k) might not. The company's perspective is even clearer. Pension system. They owe $1.2 to $1.7 million per worker in retirement. 401(k) system. They owe $180,000 per worker total. The savings is $1 million per worker. For a company with 10,000 workers, that's $10 billion in eliminated future obligations. This is why every company wanted to freeze pensions. It's the biggest corporate giveaway in American history. So how did this happen? How did we go from 60% of workers having pensions in 1980 to 4% today? This wasn't market forces. This was deliberate policy pushed by corporations and enabled by government. Let me show you exactly how the scam unfolded. The 401(k) was created by accident in 1978. Congress passed the Revenue Act with Section 401(k) as a tax provision. It was meant to be a tax-deferred savings account for executives to defer bonuses, not a retirement plan, not a pension replacement, just a tax shelter for rich people. In 1980, a benefits consultant named Ted Benna realized the language could be interpreted to allow employees to contribute pre-tax salary and employers to match. He got IRS approval. The first 401(k) plan launched in 1981. It was supposed to be a supplement to pensions. Extra savings on top of guaranteed pension. Not a replacement. But corporations saw opportunity. Pensions are expensive and unpredictable. The company promises to pay you for life, but they don't know how long you'll live. They have to estimate returns on pension investments, but markets fluctuate. Pensions show up as liabilities on balance sheets, making companies look less profitable to investors. And pension obligations can last 50 years. A worker hired in 1980 might not fully retire until 2050. That's 70 years of obligation from hire to death. Companies hated this uncertainty. 401(k) solve all these corporate problems. Company contribution is capped at the match, usually 3 to 6% of salary. Obligation ends when the worker leaves or retires. No lifetime obligation, no market risk, no longevity risk. All risk transfers to worker, and it looks like a benefit. We're giving you freedom to manage your own retirement. This is like a landlord saying, "I'm giving you freedom to fix your own plumbing," after refusing to provide maintenance. In the 1980s, companies started offering 401(k)s alongside pensions. Workers could contribute to both. This seemed good, extra savings, but then companies started freezing pensions. We're not terminating it, just freezing future accruals. This sounds benign, but it means your pension benefit stops growing. If you had 20 years of service in 2000, your pension is calculated on 2000 salary. Even if you work another 20 years to 2020, your salary might double, but your pension doesn't. Meanwhile, the company enhances the 401(k) match from 3 to 5% and says they're improving your benefits. They're not. They're cutting $1 million pension obligation and replacing it with a capped contribution. By the 2000s, new workers weren't offered pensions at all. Only 401(k). Companies said pensions aren't sustainable in the modern economy. This is a lie. Pensions are sustainable if the company wants to sustain them. The issue is they're expensive and cut into profits. Companies would rather pay dividends to shareholders and bonuses to executives than fund worker retirements. This is a choice, not an inevitability. The government enabled this through policy changes. In 1974, ERISA set rules for pensions, supposedly to protect workers. But it also made pensions more expensive to maintain through regulatory requirements. Companies lobbied for these regulations, knowing they'd make pensions burdensome. Then they pointed to the burden as justification for eliminating pensions. Classic regulatory capture. In 2006, the Pension Protection Act made it easier for companies to freeze or terminate pensions. It required underfunded pensions to be fully funded within 7 years. This sounds good, protecting workers from unfunded pensions. But it gave companies an excuse. We can't afford to fully fund the pension in 7 years, so we have to freeze it. Never mind that they'd been underfunding intentionally for decades while paying shareholders. The law gave them cover to eliminate pensions, and bankruptcy law was weaponized. Companies would spin off pension obligations to subsidiaries, then bankrupt the subsidiary. The Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, a government agency, would take over the pension but at reduced benefits. Workers who were promised $50,000 per year might get $35,000. The company sheds the obligation, workers take a cut, taxpayers backstop it through PBGC. Airlines and steel companies did this repeatedly. United Airlines dumped $4 billion in pension obligations onto PBGC in 2005. Workers lost benefits, company relieved of debt, emerged from bankruptcy profitable. This is legal theft. Meanwhile, 401(k) companies made billions. Fidelity, Vanguard, all the fund companies, they collect fees on every 401(k) dollar. 1% fee on $1 trillion in 401(k) assets is $10 billion in annual fees. These companies lobbied hard for 401(k)s to replace pensions. They funded research showing 401(k)s were better for workers. They provided education to HR departments about how to transition from pensions to 401(k). Is an industry that profits from the shift. Of course they supported it. And the cultural narrative shifted. In the 1980s, job hopping was considered disloyal. Workers stayed at one company for 30 years to earn the pension. But as pensions disappeared, loyalty became a liability. You weren't rewarded for staying. 401. Are portable. You can take them when you leave. So companies started saying, workers today want flexibility. No, companies wanted to eliminate long-term obligations. They reframed the elimination of security as granting freedom. And workers believed it because we had no choice. The final piece is financial literacy propaganda. As 401 CAS replaced pensions, there was an explosion of financial literacy education. Workers were told they needed to learn to manage their retirement. Take courses, read books, pick the right funds. Rebalance quarterly. This is a scam. Your parents didn't need financial literacy to retire comfortably. They had pensions. The need for financial literacy is manufactured by the system that eliminated guaranteed retirement. And when workers fail to save enough, or pick wrong funds, or get wiped out by market crashes, they're blamed for lacking financial literacy. Not the system that made retirement dependent on individual stock-picking skill. So pensions are gone. You have a 401. The system screwed you. What do you actually do? Because I'm not going to tell you to just save more and hope the market cooperates. The system is rigged, but there are strategies to survive it. And there are things we need to demand collectively to fix it. Individual strategies first. If you have a 401k, maximize the employer match. If they match 5%, contribute 5% minimum. This is free money. It's literally part of your compensation. Not taking it is leaving salary on the table. But don't contribute more than the match until you've built an emergency fund. The worst thing you can do is lock money in a 401k, then need it for an emergency and have to withdraw early with penalties. Once you have 6 months emergency fund, then increase 401k contributions. Try to hit 15% total if possible. That's the minimum to have a chance at replacing pension-level retirement income. But remember, this is your risk. Market crashes, you're screwed. So you also need to diversify beyond 401k. Don't put all retirement in stock market. Own real assets. Your house is a retirement asset. Paid-off house means no rent in retirement. Massive cost savings. Social Security is another leg of the retirement stool. Don't count on it being enough, but it's something. For investments within your 401k, keep it simple. Target date funds or a 3-fund portfolio. Don't try to pick stocks. You're competing against professionals with algorithms and inside information. You will lose. Index funds are your friend. Keep fees low. Expense ratios above 0.2% are too high. Fees compound over decades and destroy returns. Plan to work longer than your parents. They retired at 60. You might need to work to 67 or 70. This isn't fair, but it's reality. Every year you delay Social Security, your benefit increases 8%. From 62 to 70, that's a 64% increase in lifetime benefits. Working longer also gives your 401k more time to grow. Consider geographic arbitrage for retirement. Your 401k balance goes further in low cost of living areas. 800,000 in San Francisco is poverty. 800,000 in rural Tennessee is comfortable. Retiring to a lower cost area is how many people make insufficient savings work. Now collective strategies, because individual optimization doesn't fix the systemic problem. We need to demand the return of pensions or pension-like guarantees. 1. Mandatory employer pensions. Make it law that employers above a certain size must offer defined benefit plans. This exists in other countries. It can exist here. 2. Expand Social Security. Currently replaces about 40% of pre-retirement income for the median worker. It should replace 70% like most developed countries. Fund it by removing the income cap. Currently only income below $160,000 is taxed for Social Security. Make all income subject to Social Security tax. This fully funds expanded benefits. 3. Create public option retirement accounts. The government could offer a pension-style guaranteed return account that workers can contribute to alongside or instead of 401(k). The government can borrow at low rates and invest long-term, providing better returns with guarantees that private 401(k)s can't match. California and several states are piloting this. It should be national. 4. Regulate 401(k) fees. 1% fees should be illegal. The government should mandate fee caps of 0.1% maximum. This would save workers hundreds of thousands over careers. The fund companies will scream, but they're extracting wealth from workers who can't afford it. 5. Mandatory employer contributions. Currently, employer match is voluntary. Make it mandatory that all employers contribute 10% of salary to worker retirement. This shifts some obligation back to employers. It's not a pension, but it's better than workers bearing the full burden. 6. Strengthen PBGC. When companies dump pensions in bankruptcy, PBGC takes over, but often at reduced benefits. Fully fund PBGC and make it illegal for companies to underfund pensions, then dump them. If your pension is underfunded, you should have a legal claim on corporate assets before shareholders get dividends. 7. Bring back pension protections. Make it illegal to freeze pensions without worker consent. If a company promised you a pension, they should have to deliver or compensate you for the difference. This would stop the freeze tactic that gutted Tom's retirement. Here's what I need you to understand. Worker A retired with a guaranteed $49,000 per year for life. No market risk, no longevity risk, no inflation risk. Company bore all risk. Worker B retires with $800,000 that they have to manage themselves with all the risk. If they're lucky and markets cooperate, and they don't live too long and healthcare doesn't bankrupt them, they might match Worker A's retirement. But probably not. And it's not because Worker B didn't save enough or invest wrong. It's because the entire structure changed to benefit corporations at the expense of workers. Your dad had a pension. You have a 401(k). This isn't progress. This isn't modern flexibility. This is the largest transfer of risk from employers to workers in history. And it was sold as freedom, the freedom to fail, the freedom to run out of money at 80, the freedom to work until you die because your 401(k) wasn't enough. This is the scam. The 401(k) was never designed to be a primary retirement plan. It was a tax shelter for executives that morphed into a way for corporations to eliminate billion-dollar pension obligations, and we've been gaslighted into thinking this is normal. That retirement security, dependent on stock market performance, is acceptable. It's not. Your parents didn't need the stock market to cooperate to retire. They had guaranteed pensions. You deserve the same. Every dollar companies saved by eliminating pensions went to shareholders and executives, not to you. Not to better wages, not to better benefits, to stock buybacks and CEO bonuses. This is why corporate profits are at record highs while retirement security collapsed. They took your future and monetized it. So yes, maximize your 401(k), save 15%. Keep fees low. Work longer if you have to. Do what you must to survive the system, but also fight to change the system. Vote for politicians who support expanding Social Security. Support unions that negotiate for pensions and contracts. Demand pension protections. Demand mandatory employer retirement contributions. Individual responsibility is fine, but it shouldn't be the entire solution to retirement. Your parents had pensions because collective bargaining and strong labor laws forced companies to provide them. We need to rebuild that power. Tom worked 35 years and will retire with half the income his dad got for 30 years of work. Same company, different era. This isn't about Tom failing to save. This is about the company breaking a promise. And millions of workers have the same story. You're not imagining that retirement feels impossible. It is harder than it was for your parents, The math proves it. The pension to 401k shift was a scam. And we need to call it what it is. You deserve retirement security. Your labor has value. 35 years of work should earn you a comfortable retirement. The 401k system makes that a gamble. The pension system made it a guarantee. We need to fight for guarantees again. Because you shouldn't have to become a financial expert and hope the market cooperates just to retire. That's not retirement security. That's a casino, and you deserve better. I'll see you in the next one.